Good boy. Oh, and there's Mama too. Did you guys have your babies yet? The two osprey are flying overhead here. I'd love to have him come get a hot dog out of my hand someday. So, it's such a beautiful, quiet night. And I think I have discovered the secret to world peace. And also with that truth that's been discovered is the accompanying truth that it is very likely to be entirely ignored, and that the apocalypse is going to happen anyhow. And of course it'll be a man-made apocalypse. And so it's quite a claim, but the whole point, I think, of humanity is to put off the apocalypse as long as possible and let love reign. And so what I'm going to read today is Rene Girard's final book before he died, and it's his first real address to matters political and foreign policy, and it was published in 2010 by Michigan State University, this book. I think there are lectures in this that, or essays perhaps, that came later, but and I have not finished this book, interestingly enough. You can see what I've read here is, you know, I'm so taken by Rene Girard's Mimetic theory that I ended up buying I bought 54 of the 55 book series on violence, mimesis, and culture, and have read probably not quite half of them yet. I probably haven't even read half of Girard's work itself, and I'm just bowled over and blown away by how, I was telling my friend today how in the last 3-4 years I have encountered, because my buddy Lance likes to say that using the concept of the Jonathan Livingston Seagull idea, that perhaps everything that I believe is wrong. There's this, you know, that posture of humility towards the whole house of wisdom that makes us think, well, it looks really shiny, it looks like it might be truth, but it may not be. And so those of us that are willing to make that intellectual journey to find out, and then the analogy I came up with today as we were discussing this, it was like, you know, some of us hold on to our belief systems, whether they can be built upon or not, whether they're structurally sound. And then there are those of us who realize, hey, this is a room that is unsafe. It is not stable. It cannot hold the weight. It is certainly not something on which we need to build and use as a cornerstone or a foundation on which we will build then the rest of our structure. Those weekend, and my two whistling ducks have just arrived here. I feed them, these three in particular. See if I can turn the camera around to show you kind of cluttered background. Yeah, they're kind of skittish. They'll fly up, I'm sure, because I got them kind of cornered. I'm just gonna let them eat. I've got video. But back to Rene Girard here, and in the 55 book series, there are many scholars that take mimetic theory and then apply mimetic theory to their special field of study. And so some are economists, and some are psychiatrists, and some are psychologists, and some are cultural critics or literary critics. You can take the mimetic spectacles, as I call the device that comes with learning the knack of the mimetic theory. You can put on these mimetic spectacles and then point them at anything in the world. And now that I've had it for almost a year, I've been wearing these mimetic spectacles for a year, and I see mimesis everywhere. And somewhere, I think it may even be in this book, that Girard admits it's kind of his monomania, that he sees mimesis everywhere, and he sees the mimetic the mimetic mechanism functioning and the causing of doubles and escalation to extremes. And so Girard's focus for most of his life was not foreign policy. It was elsewhere. But in this book, he really, as he did in his initial book, he wrote a book using mimetic spectacles on Proust and on Shakespeare, on Dostoevsky, on and just lots of issues in which Girard is an expert. And then all the other experts came in, they learned the knack, and then they turned the mimetic spectacles, they turned their gaze on their field. And in his final book, what he's doing here is he's turning his gaze on foreign policy. And there are a couple books in foreign policy in the series that I've read, and I just kind of felt like they didn't quite grasp. They didn't have what I was looking for. It wasn't satisfying. They didn't really have solutions, and inevitably I turned to this book hoping, kind of like turn to the source material to figure out, okay, here's where the real Rosetta Stone is going to be found. Can I find in this book like a vein of gold or silver in an otherwise rocky mountain? Can I mine that out and find a solution that, because if he really had found the solution, I think we would have heard about it in the 15 years, because Girard has only taken on more support. And part of me was just, and then here comes my heron. Which one is this one here? I should have the camera going the other way. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun to have the background shot. 3-camera show? That's crazy. The ducks are heading out as the heron's heading in. So let me just start this, because the truth of the matter is I don't think that anybody's going to see this except myself and maybe a small group of people inside that I want to be able to have this book without having to purchase it and read it and what have you. So here it is. René Girard's Battling to the End. Conversations. I really ought to be able to pronounce this cat's name. Benoit Chantre. This is probably Chant. Benoit Chant. Benoit Chant. This is a peculiar kind of book, and it claims to be a study of German and French-German relations over the last 2 centuries. At the same time, it says things that have never before been said with the violence and clarity that they require. Its subject is the possibility of an end to Europe, the Western world, and the whole world as a whole. Today, this possibility has become real, and this is an apocalyptic book. This is an apocalyptic book. What he means by that will shock you. Until now, my entire work has been presented as a discussion of archaic religion through comparative anthropology. Its goal was to shed light on what is known as the process of homonization, the fascinating passage from animality to humanity that occurred thousands of years ago. My hypothesis is mimetic. Because humans imitate one another more than animals, they have had to find means of dealing with contagious similarity, which could lead to pure and simple disappearance of their society. The mechanism that reintroduces the difference into a situation in which everyone has come to resemble everyone else is sacrifice. When everybody else comes to resemble everybody else, when it's entirely undifferentiated between the people, when it's one big mass of folks undifferentiated from their fellows, the tension, the doubling tension grows to the point where the only way to resolve the building conflict is through scapegoating and sacrificing a scapegoat. So I'll read that, I'll say it again. The mechanism that reintroduces difference into a situation in which everyone has come to resemble everyone else is sacrifice. Humanity results from sacrifice. This is the thing that's hidden since the foundation of the world. Culture, archaic religion, has been founded on sacrifice. Conflict grows, and he'll talk about all this here. Humanity results from sacrifice. We are thus the children of religion. What I call, after Freud, the founding murder. The founding murder is when the scapegoat is, whether it is Cain slaying Abel, or Socrates being executed, or Christ being executed. A culture is founded when a scapegoat is the founding murder, is when the scapegoat is victimized. In other words, the founding murder, in other words, the immolation of a sacrificial victim that is both guilty of the disorder, and able to restore order by his sacrifice, is constantly reenacted in the rituals at the origin of our institutions. In other words, all of our institutions are built upon this ritualistic reenactment of the sacrifice of the scapegoat. At which point happened, yes, I'm trying to explain it already in layman's terms so that way you can understand the concept of mimetic theory. But the point is that conflict grows and grows and grows and grows, not because people are differentiated, not because they have differences, but rather because they have become more similar. People are inherently mimetic, so as we become more and more similar, and Tocqueville kind of pointed this out in his essay on poverty. He said that as equality, as poverty actually, as prosperity actually increases, and we have actual less inequality, as we become more equal, this is when it really becomes unbearable to the remaining disparities are the ones that can't be borne. When things were dramatically different, they could. We just assumed, this is the way things are, whether it's a caste system or hierarchy, or that guy worked harder or whatever, he had better breaks, whatever it was. It was more bearable. But Tocqueville pointed out that no, as we become more equal, it becomes more difficult for our egos to be able to bear the superiority of our fellows, or even their advantage. And this is the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing, which leads us back to mimetic theory and how in societies what ends up happening, and even in small groups, if there's always these ego battles and this ego comparative game that can become, as they become so similar, if one of them has a bad faith, if they have a rivalrous heart, if they have acquisitive mimetic desire, then it becomes this situation where the escalation to the extremes can happen. And Gerard, I'm explaining the book to you here. Gerard uses Clausewitz, primarily his first chapter, to explain that Clausewitz didn't realize what he saw when he saw the spirit of the world pass under his window when Napoleon's army marched by and announced a new form of total war. And I think, frankly, someone ought to do the same kind of, put the mimetic spectacles on, and then ought to look at just how significant Clausewitz was in the thinking of Lincoln. The idea of total war against your own countrymen is just, I just can't imagine an evil place to go than brother killing brother, when there needn't be anything between us. And this is the thing. This is where I really, I skipped to the back. The penultimate chapter, apropos, is the Pope and the Emperor, and the last Internationale, which was insightful. Made me realize some things about my beloved Catholic faith that quite comforting. And I really need to do is develop a 2-minute talk on just what is mimetic theory, and then I need to figure out how to get my 1-hour turning Christian message on its head, the core of the Christian lesson. This is what I was telling my buddy today, is that The Mimetic theory completely turned Christianity on its head for me. The cross at the center of the religion and all the significance of what that means. The whole significance of Christ's sacrifice. What that really means didn't make sense to me until less than a year ago. And it was about this time last year that I sat down with my new C.S. Lewis Bible and read it. I didn't read it cover to cover, but I read every page, and except the page that just had all the names, or that whole book that had just the names. I didn't read all that one, but I read every other book, and have been trying to read it every day since. But the thing about it, and this is the thing I always used to teach my Sunday school classes too, is that if you don't have a proper guide, I would say this about the 54 great books of Western civilization, for example, the Adler series, that starts with Plato and ends with Freud, or I think Freud's the last one, the 54th. Nevertheless, I say that someone said this to me. Maybe it was Adler himself that wrote it, and who said that if you read the 54 great books from start to finish by yourself without any help, you're likely to become an incorrigible cynic and not really get the sense of it at all. But if you have someone helping you along the way, you will realize that the 54 great books, in a way, they kind of seem like they're written by the same hand, correcting each other, and circling in on this greater truth. They're drawn centripetally towards an immovable center of truth, an immovable center of truth that you can't really see head on. You can only kind of see it out of the corner of your eye, but when you look for it, it's gone. The elusive truth is what we are constantly articulating. But those of us who believe in it know that we're always pushing back the horizon of what we can articulate. And so what I would say to my Sunday school class was that the Bible often can create more questions than it does give answers. You don't have the right decoder ring, so to speak. The Bible's going to sound crazy to some people. They just think it's just, and that's the whole thing that Gerard really does, is a lot of people just want to discount the Bible as just another myth. And properly understood, and this is the big discovery, that came to him all at once, is that, the Christian myth is unlike, they share the same mythical structure. There are lots of things that you can say are analogous, but the reason why all archaic religion and all myths are completely different than Christianity is because Christianity is the first time in all of history that any myth or any religion took the side of the victim. He said, no more victims. Look at you, violent people. You have so much murder in your heart that when God himself becomes man to show you how to do it, you end up murdering him. You end up murdering him the worst way possible, the most humiliating, excruciatingly painful way possible. And you'll desert him, even his best people. And one of them turned him over. And somewhere along the line, I don't know, maybe it was Gerard himself, but someone gave me a little sympathy for, my phone just went off, but gave me a little sympathy for Judas. Because Judas wanted to oust Christ, not because he wanted him to get nailed to the cross, but because he wanted him to reveal that he was in fact God. Come on, show yourself to the world the way we see you. And didn't realize what a terrible mistake that was. And that was, in a way, trying to tell God what to do. And that's, kind of the first sin too, isn't it? Oh yeah, what Mimetic theory will teach us about original sin and what actually sin is and what Satan is pretty remarkable too. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get around to this tonight. So much good stuff in this book, but I still got lots to read in this book. That's good. Man, I probably even got half of it read then. That's cool. Hi guys.